let's get right into it. Number 10. The expressly short life of the Pony Express. So you know how everyone thinks the Pony Express was this long-running, legendary mail service that connected the American frontier? Well, turns out it lasted about as long as your average TikTok trend. Just 18 months. The job ad literally said, "Wanted young, skinny, wiry fellows. Must be willing to risk death daily. Orphans preferred." That's not a joke. That was the actual ad. There's this one writer, Pony Bob Haslam, who once had to ride an extra 380 miles because his buddy was like, "Nah, too dangerous, bro." But this whole operation was basically dead on arrival. While everyone was celebrating these brave riders, the company was bleeding money faster than a stabbed piggy bank. Then they got absolutely destroyed by a single wire. The Telegraph came along and was like, "Thanks for playing, but I can send messages instantly." It's like opening a DVD rental store the day Netflix launches. This massive business failure became one of America's most celebrated legends. It's like if Fire Festival became a national symbol of American innovation. Number 9. The Iron Maiden that never was. So you know that terrifying medieval torture device with all the spikes inside that slowly closes in on you? Yeah, turns out it's about as real as your friend's girlfriend from Canada. The Iron Maiden was basically the world's first clickbait. It was invented in the 1700s by some museum owners who were basically the first clickbait artists. They took some old medieval junk, slapped some spikes on it, and called it a horrifying medieval torture device. The most famous one was the Iron Maiden of Nuremberg, which was supposedly invented in 1515, but it was just a tourist trap made to separate visitors from their money. It's like someone in the future finding a Halloween prop and thinking we actually used it to torture people. The real medieval people would have been so confused if they saw these things. They were more into simple stuff like hanging or beheading, no fancy spike-covered metal coffins. Number 8. Real pirates blew their booty. Forget everything you learned from Pirates of the Caribbean. Real pirates were more like rock stars with ships. These guys would raid a merchant vessel, then sail straight to the nearest port to blow it all in one epic party. They'd roll into places like Nassau or Port Royal with chests full of gold, and within days, they'd leave with nothing but a massive hangover and some questionable tattoos. Pirates were actually super democratic about sharing their loot. Everyone got an equal share, even the cabin boy. It's like if McDonald's suddenly decided the fry cook should make as much as the CEO. They had a saying, "A short life, but a merry one," and they lived up to it. In a world where you could get caught and hanged tomorrow, or sink to the bottom of the ocean next week, why save for retirement? The only thing these guys buried was their dignity after a wild night at the tavern. Number 7. Why you wouldn't die at 30 in the Middle Ages. So your history teacher probably told you that people in medieval times dropped dead at 30. Well, that's about as accurate as saying everyone in Florida is a retired superhero. That number is super misleading because it includes all the babies that didn't make it. It's like saying the average person is half male and half female. Technically true, but completely misleading. If you managed to survive childhood, which was like winning the medieval lottery, you could actually live to see your grandkids. Medieval grandparents were actually pretty common. They'd be sitting there telling their grandkids stories like, "Back in my day, we had to survive 3 plagues uphill both ways. The Roman Emperor Justinian lived to be 83, and he wasn't even considered a medical miracle. The real killer back then wasn't hitting 30, it was surviving those first few years of life." Number 6. The Great Telephone Heist. So you know how Alexander Graham Bell invented the telephone, right? Well, hold on to your smartphones because this story is about to get wild. It's Valentine's Day, 1876. While most people are probably thinking about romance, 2 inventors are racing to the patent office. In one corner, we've got Alexander Graham Bell, the guy we all learned about in school. In the other corner, we've got Elisha Gray, the guy your history teacher conveniently forgot to mention. Both of these guys show up at the patent office on the exact same day, with designs for the telephone that were practically identical. It's like showing up to an exam and copying the smart kid's answers, but on a history-changing scale. The patent office back then was basically running on vibes and handwritten notes. No security cameras, no timestamps. Just a bunch of guys with quill pens deciding the future of communication. Bell's paperwork got processed just hours before Gray's, so Bell got all the glory, and poor Elisha Gray is probably still rolling in his grave every time someone says Bell invented the telephone. Number 5. The ship that was never called Unsinkable. So you know how the Titanic was famously called the Unsinkable ship? Well, turns out that's not true. The White Star Line, who built the Titanic, never actually called it unsinkable. They were too busy showing off its fancy rooms and gold-plated everything. The whole unsinkable thing only started after the ship sank. The newspapers basically went, "Oh man, remember when everyone said this ship couldn't sink?" Except nobody actually said that. The media basically invented drama before reality TV was a thing. I mean, which headline sounds better? Large ship sinks. Or unsinkable ship sinks. The ship did have some pretty cool safety features though. It had 16 watertight compartments with doors that could seal automatically. That's some serious engineering for 1912. But instead of focusing on that incredible technology, we got stuck with this fake, unsinkable story. Number 4. Cracking the corset conspiracy. So you know how your history teacher probably told you corsets were these evil torture devices that crushed women's organs and made them faint every 5 minutes? Well, that's not true. Corsets were more like ye old sports bras with attitude. They were actually designed to support your back and improve posture, kind of like those expensive ergonomic chairs but with more flair. Most of those horror stories came from men who had never worn a corset in their lives. Sure, some people laced them too tight, but that's like blaming shoes because you bought them 3 sizes too small. The whole fainting thing was about as common as finding a vegetarian at a steakhouse. Sure, some women did faint, but usually because they were standing in hot, crowded ballrooms for hours. You try wearing layers of heavy fabric in a room full of people before air conditioning was invented. Modern corset enthusiasts compare them to a kind of wearable armor, so instead of being oppressive torture devices, they were more like fashionable power armor. Number 3. Marco Polo's pasta fraud. So you know how everyone says Marco Polo brought pasta to Italy from China? Well, turns out Italians were stuffing their faces with pasta nearly 1,000 years before Marco Polo even packed his bags. Archaeologists found pasta-making tools from 400 BC among the Etruscans. In 1154, way before Marco's excellent adventure, an Arab trader wrote about finding strings of dough in Sicily. When he got back from China, he said, "Hey, these Chinese people have noodles too." Notice the "too" part. He wasn't introducing anything new. He was just pointing out that Chinese people also knew how to party with flour and water. It's like going to Japan today and being shocked they have burgers. The real MVPs were probably Arab traders who had been spreading pasta knowledge across the Mediterranean for centuries. So next time someone tries to tell you Marco Polo brought pasta to Italy, you can hit them with the truth. Number 2. The myth of Lincoln's envelope. So you know that story about Lincoln writing the Gettysburg Address on the back of an envelope during a bumpy train ride? Yeah, that's about as real as the Abraham Lincoln Vampire Hunter movie. Lincoln wasn't some procrastinating college student doing his homework on the way to class. He started working on this speech right after the battle ended in July. That's 4 whole months before he had to give it in November. And we actually have multiple drafts of the speech, all written in Lincoln's super neat handwriting. Have you ever tried writing on a moving train? It looks like a drunk chicken had a seizure with a pen. Lincoln spent months crafting those 272 words until they were perfect. That's shorter than most people's Instagram captions nowadays. But those 272 words changed America forever. What's cooler, a lucky shot in the dark, or a master craftsman spending months perfecting his greatest work? Number 1. The samurai code is a modern fake. So you know all those movies where samurai are super noble warriors who'd rather die than break their ancient code of honor? The whole Bushido code thing wasn't even written down until 1899. That's right, the ancient samurai code is younger than Coca-Cola. It was basically a PR campaign by the Japanese government to boost national pride, and it was written for Western readers first. Real samurai were more like medieval businessmen with really sharp swords. That famous "announce your name before battle" thing wasn't them being noble. They were basically saying, "Hey, I'm important enough to fight you. Don't you dare ignore me." A lot of samurai were basically medieval bureaucrats. Picture a warrior who spends more time doing paperwork than sword fighting. So next time someone tells you about the ancient, noble samurai code, remember it's about as ancient as the electric toaster. That's all for today. I'll be making similar videos in the future. Subscribe to see them.